La Biennale di Venezia, MAREUNROL'S and Bruno Birmanis Untamed Assembly, Backstage of Utopia. I'm here with the co-curators, Inga Lāce Adomas Narkevičius. Inge, she is the co-curator of the Latvian Pavilion at Biennale Arte, bringing extensive expertise in contemporary art, archives, and Eastern European cultural history. Adomas Narkevičius is a Lithuanian curator, art historian, and founding director of the UPE Foundation in London. As a co-curator of the Latvian Pavilion, his works explores historical memory, contemporary artistic practices, and new curatorial perspective. So we are here today to break down a little bit of the philosophy and the vision of the Latvian project that is very interesting to me because there is different connection in fashion, in archives, in the vision of a backstage that is absolutely one of the hidden places, absolutely fascinated, not only for fashion shows but also intrigues the audience even for more deep meanings. So can you start explaining how this project started?
Essentially, it started way back. You could say there were a few starts. So one of the starts was when Inga, myself, and another co-curator, Rebecca Polsam from Estonia, when we worked at Mo Museum, in a private modern art museum in Lithuania, in Vilnius, on a project, on a large-scale exhibition covering relations in gender and sexuality in the Baltic region from the 1960s till the present. And Untamed Fashion Assemblies, the legacy of Untamed Fashion Assemblies was Inga's proposal for one of the chapters of that particular exhibition called We Don't Do This. From there, I think what happened was that Solvita Kresa, the commissioner of the Latvian Pavilion this year at Venice, at the Venice Biennale, she came to the opening of this survey exhibition. From my understanding, she enjoyed it and enjoyed the chapter of Untamed Fashion Assemblies. She, from what I recall, herself participated as a young adult in these festivals. And then she started a conversation with Inga about the potential for this exploration of the archive to continue in the Latvian Pavilion.
Yeah. And then the thing that we were thinking about is how to bring this incredible archive from the 90s towards the present, and not to do it as an archival installation only, not to do it as something that is in the past only, that is, let's say, pictures printed or only video shown on like screens, but maybe how to rather show it as something embodied and something that also has potential today at this moment. And what does it mean at this moment? And then there was the idea to work with MAREUNROL'S. And MAREUNROL'S are young fashion designers, artists, scenographers. They also work with sound. So they are very interdisciplinary. In a way, as were the assemblies in the 90s, they were very interdisciplinary events that gathered together, let's say, fashion designers, but the alternative ones, very often it was very performative. There was, sound, music scenes, they all intersected in this event. And MAREUNROL'S also is interesting that it's Marīta Mastiņa Pēterkopa and Rolands Pēterkops. Yeah, it's two designers, artists, and Rolands himself participated as an intern in the last assembly in the 1999. So we even had this generational connection, and they, of course, as younger, let's say, students or young fashion designers, have been thinking about these events of the 90s a lot. So we had someone who is ready to dig into these archives together with us, and they created this installation, which is more so like a backstage, live, pulsating, with some kind of intrigue that you don't know whether the show just ended or is it going to start. So we really wanted something like this to happen with this also historic material.
So definitely, do you think it's difficult for you to balance historical fidelity with the freedom to reinterpret the archive through the contemporary artistic language of MAREUNROL'S and Bruno Birmanis?
So Bruno Birmanis is the founder of Untamed Fashion Assemblies and the custodian of the archive, advisor for the pavilion. It definitely was a task, I think a positive challenge, this balancing act between history and the present, and at the same time, it was a huge advantage. Now, in hindsight, we could say of the concept or towards the concept of the pavilion, because the Untamed Fashion Assemblies and the collection of materials from the Untamed Fashion Assemblies is still extremely raw. It's still extremely potent, full of energy, aliveness, unpredictability. It hasn't been throughout, let's say, the 90s or 2000s, 2010s, historicized, categorized, or somehow in other ways classified, and it hasn't become a museological device or object. So before it becomes one, for contemporary artists like MAREUNROL'S to look at this raw material and translate this aliveness into the present felt like a necessary challenge. Which let's say it felt like a challenge that was necessary, and at the end of the day made the pavilion what it was. I think without this conversation, which is a conversation that's definitely delicate and full of creative friction, because that's not how usually conventionally archival exhibitions are produced. It's reproduced the, let's say, the atmosphere in some ways of the ethos, the vision of the original Untamed Fashion Assemblies, while making it into something completely else and completely within the language of MAREUNROL'S.
Maybe just to add is that when we were working, all of us together in the team, we noticed certain kind of resemblances between the moment then, politically speaking, in the 90s and now. However, it is also very incomparable, because of course the 90s, it was like absolutely something different, but there were these kind of feeling of large political shifts, that we may also say we experienced now, or a certain kind of authoritarian pressures and uncertainty. So that feeling could be rather similar, but of course, in the 90s, it was more like Latvia and all the other former Soviet countries were breaking out of the Soviet Union. However, it was still quite fragile, So there was this, in a way, sense of freedom, also daring, incredible sense of kind of experimentation. So we were thinking that this political moment, like political shift that produced or allowed artists, and artists were somehow also carrying forward this incredible kind of change. They were somehow in the avant-garde also of this kind of like political shift and shift in society, because they were like, let's experiment, let's be innovative, let's be open, let's think differently, about gender norms, about how everyone should dress. So they were the ones that were really, really important in that moment. And we were thinking, okay, right now also somehow it seems a little bit we are in some kind of abyss, different kind of wars are happening. There are different kind of authoritarian tendencies. So could there be potential for artists and creative people to carry us forward, carry us through this, through their kind of like creativity and imagination, maybe radical imagination? And that is something that where we found strengths for that project, that it's not only an archival project, but that it's very useful for today and inspiring for today.
Okay, I can see analogies. I mean, something that can be linked together, the necessity and the increasing creation of this backstage nowadays in the 90s, in every historical period that had struggles with politics, wars, and in the same time, we are suggested by Kojo Kuyo to represent the concept of minor keys. Can you see some analogies in these two way of conceiving creation of artistic project? I mean, we have, is it true that now we have to hide, to protect a little bit the environment, the artistic environment? What do you think about that? And you feel connected with the theme proposed by Kuyo?
I would say where I find the most generative parallel is this idea of the work happening somewhere outside of the spectacle, of the exhibition space, the display space in fashion that would be the catwalk. And I feel like this work that could be called the work in the minor key, the work of the backstage, and that type of work being not just collaborative and joyful, but also a place of tension, of conflict, of different perspectives coming together to find a way through, as Inga said, and to find a way forward is, I think, what connects the Latvian Pavilion to the larger theme of the biennial. This idea that MAREUNROL'S put forward, that it is actually in the preparation for the utopia or for the spectacle of avant-garde fashion that the magic happens, that this that solidarity happens, that things that make us inherently human take place. And we really wanted this to become a central idea within the project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Maybe just to add is something that also thinking about this Untamed Fashion Assemblies and how they haven't been let's say written in the kind of grand historical narratives, neither of Latvia or like art history or fashion history, because they were so interdisciplinary and because they started and ended at some point, and maybe neither art history nor fashion history has yet embraced them, or they still have yet to embrace them, right? So I think that was also kind of interesting. While what we were thinking is that we really wanted to make those stories, and yeah, and so I think that is also something where we're not, playing also with the, we're in the Latvian Pavilion, but we have this also rather transnational event, which was an event of, it's in a way a very Latvian event because it was happening in Latvia, in Riga, in a very difficult period, but at the same time it was very transnational. There were so many people, from Lithuania to Kazakhstan to Paris and London. So it's really interesting in that sense as well.
And which aspects of the project you've been working on, I mean, Untamed Assembly, do you think can genuinely survive the transition into digital media without losing their complexity, and which elements remain fundamentally tied up to the embodied experience of being there? So, can you say, okay, nowadays with the digital media tools, we can transfer the meanings and the vision of the importance of art project, or something is missing, or it could be missed?
Yeah, it's a very interesting and a relatively complex question. On one hand, digitization has been absolutely fundamental to carrying the archive into the present and into the future. The Betacam footage of Henry Steen, the filmmaker who filmed the 1990, 1991, and 94 editions, is absolutely at the core of the project, and the fact that we were able to digitize it, and of course the fact that Bruno Birmanis for 3 decades have preserved this footage in the Betacams is in itself a huge achievement and of huge importance. And I think what attests to the fact that something is being carried from that moment is how much feedback from audiences, both art professional and art enthusiasts, we're still receiving to this day. Now, 2 months into the pavilion being open, about how they feel touched by watching and when watching this 7-channel installation that mostly reflects on that atmosphere of the Untamed Fashion Assemblies through video. So that is one way of looking at it. Of course, this again has been one of the central challenges, not restaging the Untamed Fashion Assemblies in 2026 in Venice. And how do we not build, let's say, a monument for fashion assemblies as something that's in the past, as something that is already a nostalgic remnant, let's say, or residue. So this has been a constant friction, and this is again where I cannot overstate the importance of what MAREUNROL'S vision and brought into the project, and the installation itself that quite literally resonates between their own inventiveness, between transforming the archival material, the footage, into a new fashion language, or language between fashion and art when it comes to the fabrics and how they use the fabrics, how they create new kinds of silhouettes, how these silhouettes both refer to experimentation and form, but also to certain geopolitical tensions of today that are not too different from the geopolitical tensions or misunderstandings from 3 decades ago, because some of the fabrics on some of the racks refer to the silhouettes of the Baltic states, the contours of the borders. So I would say that the embodied aspect is crucial. And I think this is where the element of bringing in fabrics, bringing in sound, has been fundamental.
So definitely, I think it's absolutely advisable to visit the Biennale and to take a look at Latvian Pavilion. So you have time until the 22nd of November. This project will stay in the collective memories, because I think it's something really precious, and it's so difficult nowadays to be able to put together memories that belongs to different words like they did in this project, and to fuse, to melt all together something that is nowadays viewed as a backstage, I will say, a back door of contemporary times. So in minor keys and all these new terms and new ideas that we really hope to be able to be more free and more creative, more to shout loud in the future, thanks to the arts. So thank you to Adomas Narkevičius, Inga Lāce. Okay. So we were connected from London and from Kazakhstan. Thank you very much, and see you soon again on the Italian way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.